Hello and welcome to a very homoerotic battle of the ports as we take a look at Cho Aniki, Kyukoku Muteki Ginga Saikyu no Toko, or in English, the Great Brother, the ultimate strongest man in the Milky Way. This was the fourth game in the Cho Aniki series and developed by Prestage, a developer known for making very average to kinda crappy games. Released on the 29th of December 1995 on the PlayStation, this game is based on the original Cho Aniki and has Aidaten, the guy, and Benten, the woman, return as the main two playable characters. Unlike previous games in the Cho Aniki series, this one features digitized sprites of real people in some very odd poses. In fact, almost every enemy in the game is a digitized sprite. As you can see, there are many homoerotic images used within the game, as is the style of all the games in the series. It's a very unique choice and quite funny in a juvenile way. Sadly, the game cannot amuse in terms of gameplay. The stages are overly difficult. For example, on stage 3, if you die then continue, you'll start with no power-ups. This makes the stage impossibly tricky as you can't kill the enemies to gather power-ups. Then there are the bosses. The bosses in this game are stupidly difficult and take an age to actually defeat, rendering this more of a chore to play than actually being fun. Overall, Cho Aniki on the PlayStation is quite a cheap looking and playing game. Yeah, it's funny as spots, but not enough to make worth buying. On March 29th, 1996 came the Saturn port, also programmed by Prestage. This game has a slightly different title, being called Cho Aniki Kyukyoku Otoku no Gyakushu, which basically means Great Brother, the Ultimate Man's Revenge. Okay, so let's start with the opening stage. The first thing you'll notice is that the Saturn's laser beam is a crappy mesh effect, while it was solid on the PlayStation. So why didn't they just make it solid on the Saturn? It's also a different colour. However, other changes are for the better. The foreground layer of buildings are now destructible, and all the strange unrelated enemies found on the PlayStation are replaced with ones that fit the game's design. On to stage 1. Not too much different apart from flashing effects in the background and slightly redesigned stage layout. The boss also has a more impressive zoom effect when appearing. On stage 2, the floors have a nice line scrolling effect which isn't on the PlayStation. There's also 2 extra layers of parallax scrolling and extra graphical detail on the floor, where it sometimes changes into gym mats. The boss falls more in line with the game's aesthetics, having all the guys sport bald heads. Again, the background graphics have been slightly redesigned. The third stage starts off pretty much the same apart from a slight change in the background design, and the Saturn once again having an extra layer of parallax as you move into the cave. The boss has a very different attack pattern. It starts off the same, but now the stretching of the sprite is much smoother and faster. But after the first wave, things do change quite a bit. last stage I'll compare is stage 4. The Saturn version has a much better effect for the sea, so that it looks like it's actually moving. The boss is the same, but where on the PlayStation you battle in front of an island, the Saturn version fades to a sunset, which looks quite nice. Also, the size of the boss is bigger. So overall, the Saturn is a much more polished game, but still janky in my opinion. It's a shame it does use dithering, where there was no reason to do so in many areas, but I think the extras within stages make up for it. Also, the difficulty balance is more fair. Bosses no longer take an eternity to kill, for example. Also, graphically, the Saturn version runs at a higher resolution, showing more stage on screen vertically. But the big question is, should you buy Cho Aniki? And the answer is no. It's a pretty average game that looks quite cheap in places, but if you had to buy one version, it would have to be the Saturn release. And let's take a look at all those versions of Cho Aniki running side by side.
OK?
あなたはなぜ究極銀河最強男なの？
Great. それは
兄貴爆裂